excited to be here today with Lauren Pudwill. And I would consider you a new friend. And I made, we became friends, I guess, or chatted in real life at the workout studio that we both go to, Burn Collective. I've interviewed the founder, Maria, on this podcast. And I think people give off energy that you either, certainly at my age, you either like respond to and you think is great. And your energy is wonderful. You're so cute and you just seem like, I don't know, there's something that radiates from within you. And I thought it'd be really fun to interview you. I do a lot of interviews with medical professionals and physicians and doctors and scientists and researchers, but I really also love interviewing female entrepreneurs and women who are blazing their own path and making their way in life in a way that shows their power and their authenticity. And I feel like you really radiate that in a very quick minute of meeting you. So I thought it would be a fun thing to interview. So welcome.
Thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure. So let's get into it since I don't know you really well, and which is great because so many guests. I just recently interviewed someone who was one of my dearest friends for 30 years. And we were like, who flew in from New York for other things. And I was like, well, instead of going to lunch, let's do a podcast interview. And we're like, this is how we spend time together. But I don't know your story and I don't know where you're from and how you grew up. And why don't you just sort of go into that in a way that's relevant to what you're doing now?
Okay. I mean, it's all very relevant. Yeah. My family on my mother's side is Chinese from Hong Kong. And they moved to Burbank. And my dad is from the Valley. So I was born in Northridge. Yeah. And
did you feel the earthquake the other night, by the way?
Yes.
Yeah.
And a friend of mine said, oh, it kind of excites me. And I said, well, you were obviously not here in 94 for the Northridge earthquake because that was terrible.
So my 14-year-old was like, I kind of like earthquakes. They're kind of exciting. And I said, well, let me tell you about the 94 earthquake when I was a senior in high school and how scary and awful it was. And he was like, yeah, that doesn't sound so good. So sorry to interrupt, but yes.
So I have family in Tennessee. I still have family in China and Hong Kong. And my parents were really young. So my grandmother plays a huge role in my upbringing.
And she's here also in the States?
Yes.
Okay.
So all my family is here. And so my first, I guess, creative discipline is singing and songwriting. And I'm just naturally a very creative person. I don't know how to have like any job or task without it being pretty and fun.
Yeah.
So I decided a couple years ago that I wanted to do a candle and jewelry and all these things. And so these opportunities presented themselves and I was like, okay, well, why not? Let's go.
How old are you?
I'm 35.
Okay.
So then I was more focused on the music and that's still something that I do. I will never not be able to write and just create things. But I think a lot of, especially with writing, songwriting, there needs to be a lot of like life experience that happens. So just to make it actually feel real and exciting and something that I can connect to. So traveling, I mean, everything kind of inspires one project or the other and meditating. So my grandmother was always very like, okay, you need to do this and that and very rigid. And I was just a very like creative kid. And
do you have siblings?
Yes, but we're 12 years apart.
Okay.
So my mom had non-Hodgkin's lymphoma when I was 5. So she was told she was never going to be able to have children again. And then when she remarried, she got pregnant.
Wow.
So she had my brother, her miracle child.
Yeah.
And so I have always felt like an only child, but...
Are you closer now that you're older?
Yeah.
No?
Definitely closer because when he was young, it was like my mom was so busy with the newborn and my friend who was actually just visiting, my childhood friend, she's like the only one who met him as a baby. Yeah. She's like, it's crazy. He's a full adult now. I'm like, I know, we're getting up there. She's also very creative. So all the people in my life have always been very creative and inspired me to just take on new opportunities and design and production and
And where have you lived?
I have lived all over California, mostly in LA, San Francisco, and then Orange County for high school.
Orange County for high school.
Yeah.
And did you go to college or anything after high school for something in the creative arts?
Yeah. So I originally wanted to go for design, but it made more practical sense for me to go for product development. So I went to San Francisco.
Okay. That makes sense.
And that was a really great experience because even though I've moved so much, I was very sheltered. So when I got there, I was like, oh my gosh, it's like wild up here.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Did you have a strict upbringing?
Yes and no. Like they always let me creatively like do what I needed to do, but I definitely had to be disciplined. So I had the understanding of how important discipline is from a young age, but they wanted to give me space to do theater and choir and whatever, extracurricular activities I wanted to do, sports, cheerleading.
And then what was your first project or the first thing you did, either in a sort of more formal job or on your own, that like really brought out, besides singing and songwriting, or in addition to singing and songwriting, something that was like a tangible product that you developed? Was it the candle?
The candle.
And so what was the inspiration?
Me and my grandmother did the scent, and I wanted it to be like a blank canvas. So it was still warm and fresh, but was something that was unique enough that could inspire whatever creative outlet. And almost kind of create this muscle memory that, was something nostalgic, but it was new every time. And every time you smelled it, you're like, gosh, this is like nothing else. So we decided to do a very Asian Americana vibe and did tobacco leaf, jasmine, neroli, and fir needle.
Where did you develop it? Like completely on your own, or did you use I don't know how you make a candle, literally.
So I do the candles through a candle house.
Okay.
And so I went there and
how did you know how to do that?
Scents. I just used the internet. I just Googled it and was like, okay, I want to do this.
Yeah.
Okay, well, how are you going to do it? I have no idea. And then now, over the years, I've kind of, not perfected it, because it's just, if you have a nose and you kind of know, it's like cooking. You kind of know what spices go together, what scents go together. And ultimately, I'm creating a vibe. So with Burn, I'm doing a candle for them. And I'm like, okay, we need to create a scent that's not going to make you nauseous when you're working out and working as hard as you are in that room for 45 minutes. Yeah. And then just like, okay, what do you like? What do I like? How do you want it to make you feel?
To me, there are many different kinds of people. When it comes to like work, I think there's people, in particular women, I guess, I'll speak just for women, in my experience, who are very task-oriented. So someone who does really well, like having tasks for the day or the week or the month or the year, and like checks them off, right? So if you're working for someone, you can, you're given a list of, not given an actual list, but there's a list of things that you have to do and you get done. And you're not necessarily the person who knows how to make that list or what should be on that list, but you can get, like, I call it like a get shit done. Like you can get shit done. And then there's people, women in particular, who just wake up and know what to do. Like just wake up and know how to fill their day that is productive and meaningful and fruitful. And that's like the entrepreneurial woman. I knew at a young age that was me. Like, I don't know how I knew that, but I knew what to do in the morning. Like I didn't have to be given a list of things to do. I just knew that was my list, and I created it for myself. And I have siblings and friends who are that way, and also the opposite, or the other way, not opposite. And you are clearly you know what your list is. Like you knew what you wanted to do. You felt like the first thing you were going to create was a candle, and the reasons why, which you've just explained so beautifully. And then you also knew how to get it done. Do you ever think about that? Like, how did I know how to do that? Or it just is?
I think I'm naturally curious. And so no task is too big or too small. And I've had so many different jobs, and I've had them. I mean, I had a worker's permit in high school. My mom was like, why do you want this? And ultimately, I just wanted the freedom. I wanted to be able to like go to the mall, have my job, make my little money, and then do what I wanted to do with it. And then have more time with my friends because my friends worked at the mall. And
what was your job at the mall?
Girl mania.
Okay. What mall?
It was the Mission Viejo Mall. And we would do birthday parties. And so you do hair and makeup, and then they would just like have these little birthday parties. And I don't really think about that. I'm really grateful for my curiosity because I think that it allows me to just keep trying new things. And I guess for me, it's not so much like a fear of failing. It's just like hoping that I like it and I enjoy it. And if it works out and I meet amazing people along the way, like that's how I've met all the amazing people in my life.
Yeah.
Is through just throwing myself into something, whether it's traveling by myself really young for a writing session or whatever it was, I just would go. And somehow my parents trusted me to like do that. And thank God it all worked out and I'm fine, you know, to be here. But yeah, I just have always been really curious and been just really grateful to meet people who were willing to answer my questions.
Most people are if you ask them,
yes.
I found. And most people really enjoy that engagement. If you ask the questions, they want to engage with you and want to answer them. And most people like to be helpful.
Yeah, I think so. I think it like even just to pay it forward or to, you know, just feel like, okay, I've done something. And this like younger person is asking me how to make whatever it is that, you know, they want to make and genuinely be interested in it.
Yeah.
Just showing interest.
If you are, then they are. You know, if you're genuinely asking because you want the help and the guidance and it's really clear and transparent, then I do think people are excited to help, whatever that may mean, you know, not usually give you the answer, but help you like pick the path and go down that road.
Right.
Yeah.
And I've taken breaks and then, you know, gone back to different projects just because like I had to have a job and pay my rent and my, you know, my expenses. And I think all of that has really helped too, because it really prioritizes what you're interested in and what keeps you up at night thinking about and what like sparks you. Conversations, like just all of it, I think all plays such a big role in creativity and all those small moments, you know, those are the most important, not only in like building relationships, but, you know, any kind of venture, I think.
Yeah. So after the candle, what did you do? Is it
jewelry?
So what kind of jewelry? What's the aesthetic?
So my family in Hong Kong were jade carvers. They would do jade pieces for Tiffany's and like a bunch of different houses. And so I, at the time, was working for a diamond house in New York, and they had a concept store in Malibu. And so they were like, okay, you know, you're working at this store and you're helping us like build the branding and the marketing for this store. And what do you think about doing this? And I was like, yes, I would love to do that. So I was able to like pay homage to my family and work with jade and do like earrings and necklaces and rings.
When was this?
This was probably 2015.
Okay.
So it's almost been 10 years since I started doing it. Yeah, it was a great experience. I got to work with lapidaries who work on all of Fred Leighton's pieces and do really awesome stonework. And then at that point, I was still so focused on the music that it was like I was doing these products and I was pumping out the scent at the shows that I was performing. And it was great. I was like creating this full, you know, sensory experience. And then I decided, okay, you know what? Maybe I kind of want to get like back into production and do more of that work because I'm enjoying that. So then I started doing that and got married and just like, you know, figuring out what it was that I really wanted to do. And then it was just something that I was still selling candles and selling these pieces to my friends. And I was just very much doing it on the side. I didn't really know how I wanted to market it, how I wanted to just like engage with it again in like my new life, if you will.
Yeah.
I would want the branding to be different and a new logo and all these things. And at that point, I wasn't really like focused on doing that. I was just like living my life and traveling with my husband and doing, fun things. We don't have kids yet. So it was like we just had this freedom to do all these things.
Yeah.
And he travels a lot for work.
Yeah.
So I was able to go and do some really great vacations. Well, vacations for me with him. And then I was just like, I miss doing this. I miss this like creative element being like the focal point of my life versus working for another brand. Because I really only know how to go all in, and yeah. So then this year I kind of like made this declaration to myself that I was going to focus on the brand, focus on the fitness, which I've never really done, more meditating, more just getting back to figuring out what I wanted to do. And it's been like the best year ever.
So the fitness piece, did you work out before? Were you like, is this a completely new thing? Because the workout we do is really intense. But what were you doing before in terms of health? Okay, your like physical health.
So I would work out pretty regularly. 5 days a week. Sometimes it would be more, sometimes it would be less. And when I was doing it more days a week and more consistently, I would lean out, but I wasn't gaining any muscle. I wasn't nearly in the shape that I am now. I didn't feel as strong as I feel now. And a friend of mine, Karen, who's in class with us, I've known her for years because she used to work for one of the competitions that my husband does the tour for. And we weren't as close as we are now, but we would see each other around the world. And, she lived on the west side and I lived in the valley. And so we just never really had, the time or really drove across town that often. So we'd see each other like once or twice a year. And so we go on a hike one day and she's like, hey, I'm doing this thing. Looks completely different. I'm like, okay, I'm coming. And I went for my first class and I just never stopped going. I was on all fours on the mat the whole class and I was dying.
Yeah.
And at the end, I just knew like, oh, this is going to do it.
Yeah.
You just know.
And how is your like uptick in physical health? Because I mean, you can be healthy and not be strong, and you can be physically fit and not have muscle mass. And as someone who like, I spend my life in cancer prevention, the importance of like, there's like, I've been to so many things where I bring in, a gynecologic oncologist, a breast oncologist, any really like significant research doctor. And women will say, what's the things? What are the takeaways? Like, what should we do or not do? And the number one answer is always don't smoke. Hands down, don't smoke. The number two is try to keep your weight within about 5 pounds your whole life. Obviously, if you're, going to have babies, like take those months, that year actually out of the equation. But your whole life, if you can stay within 5 pounds, that's a pretty good goal, because bad cells eat and feed off of fat cells. And then the question is, well, how do you do that? And the answer is you build muscle mass in your teens, but really in your 20s and 30s, and build it so that your bones stay healthy, so that there's so many incredible, positive reactions to our body when we have muscle mass, but it also helps keep your fat content down, your fat levels down in your body, which keep you healthier for so many reasons, including cancer prevention. And a lot of women don't know that, and how important it is to build that lean muscle mass in your 20s and 30s. And even if you stopped like after you're 30 something, it's beneficial. But clearly if you keep going and you keep trying to build that muscle and keep it, build it and then maintain it, it has like lifelong benefits that can change how you look, how you feel, and also how your body will react to, invading cells basically. So to learn that now is really great. And you feel different. You 100%. Just feel different. Energy, mental health, everything, right? So how has that helped you be more creative?
I mean,
Or has it?
more focus. I mean, it's a complete body transformation for me. People always say, I don't want to bulk up, or, my mom is super into fitness and always has been. And so she'd be like, you need to be lifting weights. And I'd be like, no, I'm going to do my yoga. And yoga's great. Like I love like more of the spiritual element, and the breathing techniques and all of that are really wonderful. But in terms of the results that I never actually thought were possible for me, like I just accepted my body. Like, this is just my body. This is how it is. I work out. I'm active. I eat pretty clean. I'll still allow myself dessert, here and there, and enjoy birthday parties and all the fun things. But it wasn't until I started learning more from Maria, I was like, okay, I'm all in. And so I've been giving it that year to be like, okay, what is your method? Let me like actually understand it, because, the form is so important. And that's like what I focus on the most.
Do you get annoyed when you look around and you see women with bad form? Yeah. I know, me too.
I'm trying not.
And I wish I could be like, so,
extend your arms all the way out.
Or like your back's going to really hurt in 10 years if you keep doing it that way.
Right.
But I keep my mouth shut.
And not even from a judgmental place, but just how much that I've gained from it. Yeah. I know that if the arms are a little bit straighter, or, you lifted your butt a little bit more and arched your back a little bit. And while you're doing these deadlifts, like your muscles are going to become so much more leaner. But until you get to that place, it's like tennis, it's like you start learning tennis and you're like, realize how much you don't know and like how much it's, the form is so important and everything to tennis.
Yeah. Any sport, honestly.
Really. And this is the same way. And so I would watch her like monkey see, monkey do, and just try to do it exactly how she's doing it. And I love the stretch class, because I think that's really where I'm able to like elongate the muscles and create that lean hourglass shape that is what she designed this method for. I've never had it explained to me that the way that she has, to where I was so interested, and then gain this curiosity and then the discipline to keep going.
Yeah.
Because I think any workout, if you're going, you're going to see some kind of results, better than nothing.
Yeah.
But it has completely transformed my life into, now I've always been like a pretty high functioning person in general. And I would say I'm like pretty 50-50 on the logistics and the task, but then also very creative. And so it allows me to have fun doing, I don't want to say cleaning a toilet, but like I'll do it and like have a great time, and there'll probably be great music playing, and, we'll all be having fun. But she makes going and working out every morning so enjoyable.
You feel great after. You feel great.
The community is great.
Yeah.
Which is huge. I've never had that, especially in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Like, you get these really beautiful, pretentious studios. And the workout's like decent, but you don't know anyone after. You're definitely not making any friends.
Yeah.
You're, it's just not the same experience. Every morning, you have an entire class of people who are smiling and encouraging you to get through these classes. And that, I think, is super important.
It's a really nice mix. There's a hot yoga studio that has a sculpt class that I do really love in Santa Monica. And it's a good like age mix, and it's a great studio. But because it's dark and it's, you leave right after, there's really no interaction with the people there, because there just isn't time to. And also, I think the darkness, you don't like chat with anybody. Sometimes you go with a friend, that's different. But there's a nice community, but it's like the idea of a community, but it's not actual like interaction with people.
Right.
And then I worked out at a studio for like 10 years, but they were all mostly women my age, probably because it's so expensive. So it was like not something for 20-year-olds. I do, in general, in West LA. This is a whole bubble that, you can only understand if you live here. And we were all friendly with each other, but it was like it stayed there. It was like very much it stayed between whatever time we were there, 9 and 10:30 in the morning. And I think that Maria has created a sweet spot of different age ranges in the room. I mean, not that many people sort of over 45, my demographic, but there are a handful, and people driving in from all over the place, which is really interesting.
It's me.
Yeah. And it'll be interesting to see when she opens up more studios, like if that, sort of tapers out and people stay closer to home, because LA is that kind of city and kind of county. But it is really special. I completely agree. And I think it is, really just very uplifting. And it is a workout where you can get as much out of it as you want.
Yes.
So, you can go in there and you'll sweat no matter what, but you won't feel it if you're not doing it properly and your form's not great, or if you're really like putting in. And I'm always looking around. I'm like, ooh, this is not helping you. But if it's helping that individual in the way that they just got there and they needed to be there, then that's a pro. It's better than sitting home on your tush. So back to how it sort of this year of transformation, I guess you're saying, and year of really getting really deeply in touch with yourself, if I hear you saying that. So now it sounds like you're really building this new brand. So tell me the name of it. I mean, I know the name, but why the name, how you came up with it, and then you've done some leather goods, I think. So how did that evolve into that? And what's sort of the overall vision?
Yeah, I mean, it's ultimately my lifestyle in a brand.
Okay.
If I'm looking for something and I can't find it, then I will find someone to make it for me. And then I'll show a friend and they're like, oh my gosh, it's so cute. And then I'm like, okay, well, let's just put it, in the line. My grandfather used to call me Lolo Bagogo when I was a baby because it rhymed and most Laurens go by Lolo. And then growing up, everyone called me Bago or Bagogo. And so that's just always stuck with me. So for music, it naturally was my artist name. And then it's just my nickname. So I naturally called the brand By Bago. The leather goods, I was looking for this belt. I wanted this and I couldn't find it anywhere. So then I made it. And then I loved the woman that I was working with.
What was about it that you couldn't find? Like what in particular?
So, I mean, it's made from cow hide with hair on cow hide, but they call it pony hair. And I just wanted this belt and I couldn't find it. If maybe it had like a bedazzled thing on it. And I just was like, I don't like the buckle. So I just sourced everything and then, found someone to make it. And then I decided, okay, well, now I want a new clutch. Okay, I want to make this. Okay, I want to make this handbag. I want to make, Margot's, my rescue that I got almost 2 years ago in November. And she's me as a dog. and I wanted her to have a matching collar. So then we made a collar. And I mean, it's just ultimately all the things that I want to see. And then if people like it, great. And either way, I wanted it anyway. So,
And what's the sort of, it's an extension of you and your personality, but is there, in addition to that, like a line that carries everything through that keeps it? Because is it the aesthetic that makes it all sort of under the brand that you're building? Or is it, I don't know, what is it that like ties it all together? Or is it just, it's you?
It's me. I mean, when I go visit family in Tennessee, we're out in the fields and we're, it's humid. And so the lifestyle there is obviously very different from Los Angeles. When I go visit my grandmother, we are eating the best Chinese food under the sun. And so I would say that those are the two things that really make up who I am. I'm very Asian American. Yeah. When I was growing up, there really didn't look anyone like me. There wasn't kids on the playground. So, Karen O was probably the first like Asian American that she's from the Yayayas that I was like, oh my gosh, like she's representing me. She's not Chinese, but that has always been what has inspired me. The scents in the candle, just what I love. How my house is decorated, how just the type of interiors that I kind of am drawn to, the sounds that I'm drawn to.
And what do you see coming next? Or what would you like to do next?
Well, I never really thought about really getting into leather work. And so now that that door has kind of opened for me, I want to continue building that line. And I mean, most of the time when I travel anywhere around the world, that's the things that I pick up the most would be like, what are the raw materials here, and what are the biggest or the best quality products that typically come from, these locations. And so that usually will inspire me. So it's hard to say, because I can go somewhere in Peru and be like, oh my gosh, this is the softest wool I've ever felt.
Yeah.
Or go to Portugal and be like, wow, these linens are unbelievable. So I'm not entirely sure, but definitely more traveling.
Yeah.
And just staying open to it, because I think I'm definitely not stuck in my ways, because that, I think, hinders creativity.
I agree. Has this always been your aesthetic? Are you a black on black girl?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll randomly find something that I'll love the silhouette of and be like, oh, okay, but this is like lime green. Or if it's Chinese New Year, I wear red. But yeah, I'm usually in all black.
Yeah.
And my dogs shed. So I've just become like all black covered in dog hair.
I know, we have lint brushes all over my house, especially right now. I have a German Shepherd, and it's like just everywhere. It's like the big just tufts of hair flying around.
Yes.
And it's stuck on me. I don't like it, but my kids don't seem to care.
My Margot is a German Shepherd Husky.
Oh, wow. I had a Husky growing up. That's a lot of hair.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
All around the year. Every time I'm like, oh, this is going to be the big shedding season. No, all year round is shedding season.
Well, when you live in a climate that doesn't really have a winter, dogs just shed all the time.
Yeah.
Because, basically. Right now is particularly bad, but I probably said that 3 months ago. So I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's nuts. Okay. So moving to your next phase, it's really about just staying open and seeing where the world takes you and where you go. But it always seems like what you're saying to me is it'll come back to like the inspiration from you.
Yes.
And your roots and your heritage and your family and that sort of, and then it presents itself with like a twinge on, what you see and what you discover, which is cool.
Yeah. I mean, right now I'm working on another music project. And so that's exciting. And so the sounds are different, and I'm inspired by different records. Like you'll go in thinking, okay, this is the sound that I want. Have this melody, and I want to write something to this. And then once you kind of have a finished demo, you're like, okay, this is completely different than what I went in intending for it to sound like or even be about. So I think through that learning experience, it's always been stay open, meet new people, get inspired by different people, have conversations, and meditate. Like I think the best ideas come from meditation.
Yeah.
Because you have to be alone.
Yeah. And really in touch with yourself.
Yeah. I mean, my husband travels a lot. And so it's usually me and the dogs. And sometimes it's hard. And then sometimes I don't sleep because there's just ideas and it's just flowing. And so I allow that space for myself because I think that it all plays a role. Like I go into the workout class and I'm going to work out harder. I'm going to up my weights that week, or I'm tired because I was up writing until whatever time. So I'm going to take it a little easy, drink a little more water.
Yeah.
So everything I think is a balance.
Yeah. And good for you for finding that at really a young age, I have to say. It's exceptional. I think a lot of times it's in your 30s when you're trying to figure it out, but you're really honing in on it. And I think it's awesome. I mean, it's great for you and your creative process and what you're building and making and branding and creating. It's pretty awesome. Last question I'm going to ask you is if you, with your physical things that you've made, so your physical items, your candle, your belt, your bag, if there was one place where you could see it, like being sold or being shown, do you have something in your head?
Probably the De Young Museum in San Francisco.
That's a good answer.
That is probably when I first moved out, from my parents' house, I was 17. I was always younger in my grade. And that museum, it's in, Golden State Park, and it's just like a beautiful place. And you go there, and even the Science Museum, there's this albino alligator in the front. That really opened my eyes. Like, all of their exhibitions have always been like amazing. And that's where I would like to see my pieces.
Would you, in your future, create, what you do is art, but would you create like sort of that definition of art? Sculpture, painting, like, does that part of your creative process?
No. I'm really inspired by hospitality. I think going somewhere and experiencing a memory, and then even, creating a scent for my wedding, or I went to somebody else's wedding. If there was a scent that could explain how they wanted you to feel or to remember that night, a 50th anniversary, whatever, it could be a graduation with friends and family and celebrating, like that, I think is definitely the direction that I want to go into. Still very like art focused, but yeah, like I think that I wouldn't be inspired by anything if I didn't have amazing memories. So that is hotels and restaurants and museums and.
Well, I'm really looking forward to the more memories you make in the future.
Thank you.
And you're never stop making them. And then being someone who's so creative and, clearly has a high level of aesthetic and beauty, and being able to translate that into something tangible. To me, there's something so powerful, like having a tangible end game is wonderful. It's just, to me, it's like what everyone strives for. So keep doing it.
Thank you.
For yourself, but also for those who get to enjoy it with you. I think it's really powerful. And being on this journey of intentionally, wanting to take time to really like dig into your core, like metaphorically and also like like actually, I think is the best gift you can give yourself. And it clearly shows. So it's awesome the things you're creating by doing that. So I don't know. I just wish you luck, and I'm excited to see what comes next, or not even next, but 3 down, 4, 5, 6, 7 dozen down the road.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. This was super fun.